Eagle Community Television presents Community Connection with your host, Mike Cooper.
Hello and welcome to Community Connection from Eagle Community Television. Thanks for watching, and thanks to our producer, Jeff Durall. We are at Frontier Park in the shelter house area of Frontier Park, South Main, which in just a short time will be transformed into the Oktoberfest plots area, the site of the 2012 Oktoberfest and the site of the 40th Oktoberfest, believe it or not. She doesn't know this yet, but I'm introducing her as the queen of Oktoberfest, Eleanor Schippers, who joins us today for a little reminiscing for Oktoberfest for the 40th.
Thank you.
What a perfect time to reminisce a little bit. You've kind of been on the ground floor of this thing since it started at one way or another, haven't you, Eleanor?
Yes, from day one. I can remember real well. At the time, the first one was held down on 10th Street. The street was blocked off from the depot up till Main Street. Mm-hmm. One block in there was set aside for the food, where they had the beer and so forth. And how well I remember, they thought they had more than enough food. And what else that goes with Oktoberfest? And they found out by noon, from 10 till noon, in that timing, the food was all
it was all gone.
Yeah.
Sold out.
But the beer was still there,
mm-hmm.
and that's what they had. And as it was very successful, the committee found out at that time that the space there was just too small, and it had to be moved someplace. And in all their findings, they found out that they were going to move to the park area, which was on the other side of the dike, where the swimming pool and that was located, the tennis court and what have you. And I think it was 2 or 3 years that they had settled into that area, and finding that was not to their liking, they decided to go across the dike area down into the Frontier Park, which is all own little city. And what a beautiful area it was with the trees and everything. It was one of those things that they felt that the people would probably enjoy much more than to be out in the far open, such as they had wanted to go. At that time, they wanted them to go out to the 4-H building, and that didn't meet the committee's approval. So they just stayed down in that little city of Frontier Park.
It was quite a transition from that first Oktoberfest 40 years ago, with the one block area, 3 or 4 booths, I think, from the various communities that were involved, and then a move to the north area, just north of the dike. Outgrew that, so eventually came to what is now the current Oktoberfest area.
Right.
Which, as you said, Eleanor, provided a great, not only venue with the trees and the fall and the shade and the protection from the wind at times, and it was kind of an enclosed area, wasn't it?
Yes. And that Oktoberfest was really, had come about with working with Jack Willem, who was manager, I believe, of the
Hayes Area Chamber of Commerce.
Right, And he started to, let's say, he probably wanted people from the community to work and see if they could start something in the way of an Oktoberfest in Hayes, Kansas.
Yeah.
And it all came about that it filtered out to where the communities were all favor of it, and it was something that they really enjoyed. And the committee enjoyed having Jack, who was a great guy, to come into the community, and he worked with and got it off its feet.
And there were a lot of community organizers within those small towns who were on committees and such. Rupert
Yes.
Fahnenstiel, one name that everybody knows. Larry Worth, a
Yeah.
name that everybody knows. Your own brother, Francis Schippers. You know, a lot of the community organizers really made this thing happen.
There was Gene Jacobs, and of course a committee was formed, and of that committee today we still have two of the original committee people, which is Gene Jacobs and Larry Worth. The rest of them all have passed on, which includes some people as Lawrence Michael, who is a historian, and we have a lot of memories of him.
Oh yeah.
Together with Leonard Herman from Liebenthal, although he was not the original one, as there was Laverne Dechen, who was one of the original ones, but he passed on, so they placed Mr. Herman on the committee, and so it went through the different communities that they had different people from the different parishes, so to speak, that came in and got the thing rolling, got it off its feet, and here we are 40 years later.
And the unique thing, Eleanor, is that each of those communities brought their own special treats. Their taste treats came to Oktoberfest in their various booths. And so you got a wide range of the German, Volga German culture and cuisine.
They kind of kept it under saying that each parish was responsible for the food, and they tried to keep the food different from each parish. And as it went, you know, certain communities were responsible for their favorite foods that they were used to doing.
For many, many years, your brother Francis, of course, was chairman of Oktoberfest, worked with all of those individual parishes to bring together the great foods. And then for many years, Francis worked to bring in crafts and projects and authentic things of the parishes.
There was a number of craft booths, and there was a number of booths that in a time there, I can't remember the years exactly, but where they had
well, we have sauerkraut making, we had pickles, demonstrations, we had weaving, wool, yarn making,
there was
shearing sheep even.
Yes, that was always interesting. And the kids always were amazed at the milking of the cows, which was all something new to them.
Right.
And the weaving of a number of people were just interested in doing those things at that time. But the demonstrations have kind of fallen to the wayside. A number of these the younger generation just don't take interest in that right now. I think they got enough to do on their own.
And they really don't have much connectivity with those older routines, if you will.
And they're gone.
Another thing that Francis did, Eleanor, was to ensure that those booths that came to Oktoberfest presented authentic things. It was a non-commercial, if you will, that Francis always tried to attract and keep.
Yes, he always said the good old German food is what we need, and the younger generation needs to learn how to do it. And there were no pizzas, there were no hamburgers, and things of that nature.
And in addition to that, of course, many times there were organizations and groups that came to Oktoberfest, that was their primary fundraiser.
They've
right. Sold items, and that was their main way of raising funds to help their organizations through the years. Francis always supported that.
Right. He kept that #1 priority.
Well, Eleanor, you know we can't have an Oktoberfest without some good old polka music, and you've had some really good polka players over the years.
Yes. This year, I think we just have one band. Some of these, there we go again. A lot of these people that were involved with the different bands are unable to participate due to the fact of their working hours.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to do with what we can,
Mm-hmm.
and take it from there. And we had the polka bands. There were a number. At one time, I think there was maybe 5 or 6 bands that were interested all the time, had very good luck, but they just seem to fall by the wayside, and they just can't participate.
Too many commitments.
Yes.
Now, one thing we can't let go before we end our visit today about Oktoberfest is the collaboration which began with Fort Hays State University, which really gave it a new emphasis and a cooperative effort with the Volga German Society and Fort Hays State University. Talk about that.
Well, it was back, I think, in 1972, 73, where this, came about. Fort Hays just seemed to fall by the wayside into having luck, shall we say, in having people to attend homecoming, and with the cooperation of the city and Fort Hays State. I can't remember who was president at that time, but they had several meetings where they met together, and through the 72 and 1973, I think it was, they came to the conclusion that they would try to cooperate with the local German society and bring it together. And there was Ron Fruhoff and Jim Nugent and some of those that were really for, let's go for it. And that's how it came about, having the first Oktoberfest downtown. They gave it that trial, and it took off at that time, and it's been since that time, since I think 1974 was the first one that was held, and here we are.
40 years later.
Yes, and we're still with Fort Hays.
And still with Fort Hays, and still having one of the biggest fall festivals anywhere in the state.
Right, it's considered to be one of the largest. Go Hays Oktoberfest, and it's October time, and it has happened that Oktoberfest already has taken place in September. A lot of people could not understand that, why Oktoberfest in September, but the real thing is that Oktoberfest is an after-harvest festival, and it's in Germany, I believe, it starts already, sometimes I guess in August already, but they have Oktoberfest in September, and it goes till late October. But here we try to work with Fort Hays in the events of football games, and we kind of follow that date when the football game is scheduled for homecoming, and we go from there.
And it all comes together as part of an Oktoberfest homecoming weekend.
Yeah.
And once again, Eleanor Schippers, the queen of Oktoberfest, joining us today on our Community Connections. And we want to invite you to our activities for the weekend in Hays once again, one of the biggest celebrations around. Our thanks to producer Jeff Durall, and thanks to you for watching Community Connection from Eagle Community Television.